Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, let's just fade out our makeshift NPR intro music there because we really need to jump right in.
Yeah, we have a lot of ground to cover today.
We really do. Because right now, Colorado lawmakers are actually attempting to outsource their frontline wildfire defense strategy to, well, a team of semi-aquatic rodents. So welcome, our favorite learner, to today's deep dive. We are looking at the top stories for late March 2026 and exploring what actually happens when human engineering just hits a wall and our systems start to crack.
Right. And we are treating today's material as a masterclass in watching systems under extreme pressure. Because normally, when we think of a system, whether it's a municipal water grid or national security logistics, we assume precision.
Yeah, we assume it's stable.
Exactly. We assume a stress test will tell us exactly where the steel beam bends. But the landscape we are looking at right now is defined by compounding systemic failure. We are tracing a direct, logical line from severe environmental shifts in the mountains straight into the physical buckling of our local infrastructure.
Which is pretty terrifying to see in real time.
It is, and it goes all the way up to a global geopolitical gridlock that is directly dictating the numbers in your bank account.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the environmental data coming out of Colorado right now is, staggering. The Eagle River Fire Protection District has officially declared that we are sitting on the, quote, eve of the worst wildfire season ever.
Yeah.
Hearing that phrase in March is deeply unsettling.
Well, the data backing up that declaration is completely unprecedented. Entire stretches of Eagle County are currently classified in extreme or exceptional drought.
Right, and the snowpack is basically non-existent.
Exactly. Snowpack levels, which traditionally act as the region's moisture reservoir, they're registering near zero for new accumulation.
Yeah.
But the critical metric triggering the alarm bells isn't just the lack of snow, it's the energy release component, or the ERC.
Right, and the ERC is fascinating because it doesn't just measure how dry the ground is, it measures the potential heat, right?
Precisely. It calculates the available energy in the fuels.
So like the timber, the underbrush, the dead grass, it tells you exactly how hot those materials will actually burn if a spark hits them.
Right.
And right now, that ERC is at historic highs for March. The forest is essentially a loaded spring.
And that loaded spring is tied to a massive cascading hydrological crisis. Because the snowpack in the Rockies, it isn't just for winter recreation. It is the fundamental water supply for the entire American West.
Wow.
And because that snow isn't materializing, water managers are currently executing emergency negotiations to release 500,000 acre-feet of water from the Flaming Gorge Reservoir.
500,000 acre-feet. Just to put that jargon into perspective for you, learner, imagine a standard football field covered in water and then stack that water 500,000 feet into the sky.
It's hard to even picture.
That is nearly 100 miles high. It is a staggering, desperate volume of water being moved just to save Lake Powell, which is reaching critically low operational levels. But here is where we get back to those semi-aquatic rodents.
Right, the beavers.
Yes. Colorado lawmakers are taking a highly unusual legislative approach to this fire threat. They are moving to legally protect beavers so their wetland habitats can act as natural fire breaks. So we're essentially outsourcing our first-line wildfire defense to semi-aquatic rodents.
Yeah, basically.
It's like we're hiring nature's own terraformers because human engineering simply can't keep up with the changing climate.
Well, they're doing it because the underlying mechanism there is incredibly effective. It's actually gained so much mainstream traction, it even inspired a recent hit Pixar movie.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, because beavers act as a natural braking system for hydrology. When they build dams, they slow the water down, allowing it to pool and deeply saturate the surrounding earth.
So it creates like a buffer.
Exactly. It raises the water table and creates a thermal refuge. It's basically a massive, soggy sponge that fire simply cannot burn through.
Lawmakers are acknowledging that the ecosystem's natural regulatory systems are far more effective than human intervention.
Right. It's admitting that maybe we don't have all the answers. Right. And this friction between a collapsing natural environment and human engineering leads perfectly into our next topic. Because when that natural sponge disappears, the pressure transfers directly to the concrete.
Oh, absolutely. Our built environments and local economies are buckling under these same pressures. We are seeing that physical degradation in real time. Down in Denver, a parking garage situated right next to a Southeast Denver office building just recently suffered a partial collapse.
Yeah, just completely gave way.
It totally crushed two cars, Miraculously, there were no injuries, thankfully. But a structural failure of that magnitude in a major metropolitan area is a very visible symptom of broader infrastructural decay.
And that physical decay is mirrored by economic shifts too. Palantir, which is Colorado's most valuable firm.
Right, the massive data company.
Exactly. They are moving their corporate headquarters out of Denver to a suburb of Miami.
Wow. That is a massive loss of corporate tax revenue right at the exact moment the state desperately needs capital to shore up failing infrastructure.
Yeah, and this tension between infrastructure, population, and shifting climates is compressing into a hyper-localized crisis back up in the mountains, specifically in Vail.
Oh, Vail is dealing with so much right now. The community is completely torn over how to adapt to its growing population and changing climate. The town council is currently facing intense financial scrutiny over a massive $161 million housing project called Timber Ridge.
Right, it's a 268-unit project.
Which is an eye-watering municipal expenditure, but it's entirely necessary because the local workforce, the people who actually keep the town functioning, simply cannot afford to live there.
Right, but then simultaneously you have a fierce debate raging over a billion-dollar redevelopment project right in Vail Village called Solaris.
Yes, developers are pushing to construct a 100-foot-tall building that would add up to 800 new luxury hotel beds.
And the pushback from the locals, particularly in the Potato Patch neighborhood, has been intense.
Oh, they are furious.
Yeah, they argue that this massive influx of high-end designer retail is actively erasing community gathering spots, like the historic Red Lion.
Right, it's a battle over Vail's actual identity. The traditional, faux Bavarian architectural aesthetic, which was designed to manufacture that sense of timeless alpine permanence. It's being bulldozed for a high-rise glass structure.
Oh, the paradox here is wild. I mean, despite the historic drought, the zero snow accumulation, and the terrifying wildfire risk we just talked about, the luxury market is completely unbothered.
It's totally insulated. I mean, the Four Seasons in Vail is boasting an 85% occupancy rate for Easter, charging up to $2,895 a night.
Which is just wow.
And they are doing this by pivoting their marketing completely away from traditional ski packages and leaning heavily into luxury wellness experiences.
Right. But, are we just putting luxury Band-Aids on a drying landscape? If the snow is gone and the actual locals can't afford the $161 million housing project, who is this 100-foot faux Bavarian aesthetic actually for?
Exactly. It's like putting a Ferrari engine in a car with no brake pads. The metrics look fantastic right up until the moment you crash.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights a core vulnerability in modern municipal planning. Cities are increasingly prioritizing high-yield tourism and designer aesthetics over foundational stability and community fabric.
Right. The revenue is just too intoxicating for local tax bases.
Exactly. But it creates a profoundly brittle system.
And that brittleness, that local tug-of-war between strained infrastructure and political priorities, it isn't just a Colorado problem. It is currently playing out on a massive, tragic scale at the national level.
Yeah, U.S. travel infrastructure is facing horrific tragedies and systemic gridlock right now. At LaGuardia Airport in New York, an Air Canada CRJ-900 jet actually collided with a fire truck on the runway.
It's just an absolute tragedy. It resulted in the deaths of 2 pilots and left 9 other individuals hospitalized.
Right. And while investigations into how that happened are ongoing nationwide, travelers are facing immense chaos inside the terminals. TSA security lines are stretching for hours.
Because the Trump administration has deployed ICE agents, immigration and customs enforcement to major airports amid a Department of Homeland Security shutdown. So you have all this happening while TSA agents are working unpaid.
Right. And just as a quick reminder to you, learner, we are not taking political sides regarding the Trump administration, ICE, or the DHS shutdown here. We are simply reporting the facts of the logistical fallout as documented in the sources.
Exactly. We're looking at this purely from a logistical standpoint. But using ICE agents to speed up lines of unpaid TSA workers sounds like trying to fix a broken clock with a sledgehammer.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You're taking an enforcement tool and applying it to a purely logistical bottleneck.
Well, shutting down funding while deploying overlapping law enforcement agencies, it just creates compounding systemic failures. You're introducing massive new variables of inefficiency.
And politically, this is all happening while the Senate just voted 54-45 to confirm Markwayne Mullin as the new Homeland Security Secretary.
Right, finalizing a massive shakeup after months of intense scrutiny over former lead Kristi Noem. So you have new leadership taking the helm of an agency that is currently shut down and dealing with massive frontline gridlock.
It's a logistical nightmare.
It is. And domestic political gridlock like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. These internal infrastructural vulnerabilities leave us highly exposed to international conflicts, which brings us to how this all impacts your wallet.
Right, because the global shockwaves right now are severe. We have to look at the U.S.-Iran conflict, which is highly volatile at this exact moment. President Trump just announced a 5-day postponement of military strikes on Iranian power plants.
Right, citing productive conversations.
Exactly. Though Iranian state media has publicly called those claims of direct talks, quote, fake news.
Right. They're denying any direct or indirect communication. And again, absolute political neutrality must be maintained here regarding the war and energy policies.
Right.
We are just analyzing the economics of the conflict.
Right, because the uncertainty surrounding these potential strikes is causing massive oil shocks. I mean, gas prices are spiking so severely that DoorDash is actually stepping in to subsidize fuel costs for its delivery drivers.
Wow, just so they can afford to keep working.
Exactly. And the conflict is single-handedly driving up U.S. mortgage rates due to heightening inflation fears.
Yeah, when investors see a massive spike in oil prices, they anticipate broader inflation, which drives treasury yields up. And that instantly translates to hundreds of dollars added to your monthly mortgage payment.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, we're watching gas prices and mortgage rates explode because of a war over oil in the Middle East. And at the exact same moment, the U.S. government is paying a French energy company, Total Energies, almost $1 billion to kill U.S. offshore wind project leases.
Yeah.
Make that make sense. We are paying $1 billion to stop producing renewable wind energy at home while we're in an energy crunch.
Well, what's fascinating here is the collision of macroeconomic policies. Abruptly shifting domestic energy policy during an international oil shock creates immediate, unavoidable financial pain for the consumer.
It's like the system is fundamentally fighting itself.
Exactly. You're limiting your future energy independence exactly when your reliance on foreign oil is most painful.
Wow. Well, it all comes back to that friction. We started this deep dive looking at a lack of snow and a few beavers in Colorado. We looked at collapsing parking garages, airport chaos, and global oil markets dictating your mortgage rate. It seems chaotic, but these aren't isolated events.
No, they're completely connected.
Right. Learner, true knowledge is seeing how these pieces fit together. When the natural environment stops functioning, the pressure moves to our physical infrastructure, which is vulnerable to the same gridlock we see in our national security and global energy policies.
It is a massive interconnected web. But, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over, drawn from the cultural news in the sources today.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because right now, we are seeing a massive reevaluation of cultural icons. Colorado lawmakers are trying to replace Cesar Chavez Day with Farm Workers Day following sexual assault allegations by his co-founder Dolores Huerta.
Oh, wow.
And separately, Bill Cosby was just found liable for a 1972 sexual assault in order to pay $19.25 million.
Right. So we are dismantling the legacies of figures who were once considered untouchable pillars of culture.
Exactly. And so the thought is this. As we reevaluate our cultural heroes, we are simultaneously watching our physical infrastructure and global systems buckle. What happens to a society when the foundational myths we've built our lives upon, whether it's the myth of an endless supply of winter snow, the myth of flawless national security, or the myth of infallible heroes, what happens when they all begin to crack at the exact same time?
Wow. That is the ultimate stress test. I mean, are we going to keep pointing to the broken systems and pretending they are fine, or are we going to figure out a completely new way to build it? Thank you so much for joining us on this Deep Dive Learner. Keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you next time.